Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to your Game Week 3 Team News Roundup. As you can probably tell, I'm not Joe. He's on holiday this week. But I'm still joined by Neale to give us the latest Game Week 3 injury and team news. Neale, how are you doing?
Not bad, Tom. Yeah, just checking you can hear me all right. Still
Yeah, I can hear you. Just
good.
let us know in the chat if everything's good. Be helpful. And then we'll get going. Yeah, no 20th century references today, I'm afraid, Neale. But yeah, you have to live without that today. Everyone's saying it's good in the chat.
Good.
Joe is shaved. Yeah, good one. Cool. All right, we'll get straight into it because Neale's got lots of things to do, lots of predicted lineups to make. So we'll kick off with Arsenal and Brighton, starting with the home side. A big blow. Well, maybe not a big blow, but a definite blow with their new signing out for a few weeks.
Yeah, Mikel Merino, who I was just writing about actually, in his very first training session, collided with Gabriel's centre half. I think it was Gabriel. I'm assuming it was him, not Martinelli. And he's got a small fracture in his shoulder, so they're not sure the timeline yet. A few weeks is the best we've got so far from Arteta. But they're going to give it further assessment. Yeah, small fracture, so we're not going to see him anytime soon. And one other line of note as well on Jesus, who is out of this game, but not for much longer. He sat out game week 2 with a groin injury, but he's already back and doing various stuff on the grass, so he's not going to be out for very long. And they're still without Tomiyasu and Tierney. There was a line on Tomiyasu today. It's probably about fourth in line for left back now. And he is still some time away. He's not even remotely training yet.
Yeah. And then, I guess left back's the only sort of potential prediction issue for you.
Yeah, and left wing as well, because Drossard obviously came off the bench and to good effect against Villa last weekend. I do wonder whether Martinelli, because his pace is his asset, and Brighton do play with that high line, whether he'll still actually stick with Martinelli for this game as he did against Villa. But yeah, those two positions on the left flank are definitely the only two up for grabs at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. And then moving on to Brighton, another new signing who needs an operation early doors just after signing, so a big blow for Brighton.
Yeah, O'Reilly, who managed all of 9 minutes of his debut in midweek in the Carabao Cup. He is out and probably for quite some time. It's an ankle injury. Again, I haven't got a timeline exactly yet, but he's going to have surgery on it, so that's going to be out for some time, which could nix the move from Brighton to Napoli for Billy Gilmore. It remains to be seen. Elsewhere, Kadioglu's just signed. Hertler was kind of non-committal about whether he was going to be involved. He's actually an option in midfield as well as in both fullback positions, and Hertler sort of said that yesterday. Two other summer signings actually with fitness issues. Gruda hasn't featured ever since he joined. He was carrying a small issue when he signed for the club, and he hasn't been seen since. And then Mats Wiefer, who missed out last weekend, a minor issue, but Hertler gave the probability as 49-51. So it's just below a 50% flag in FPL as to whether he's going to be involved. So it could be the 38-year-old James Milner once again in midfield.
Yeah, and then
I should say actually, they've recovered a few other names in midweek in that League Cup tie. Verbruggen was back, Ferguson was back, Estupiñán was back as well. Verbruggen started and Estupiñán got minutes. Hertler did say that he isn't going to rotate his keepers this season, as De Zerbi did last year, but he didn't tell us who the number one's going to be, so we might find that out this weekend. And he did say Estupiñán's got the potential to be one of the best left backs in the Premier League. He just needs a bit of time to get his match fitness back.
Yeah, that's potentially why they let Barco go then. So Estupiñán could be back in our thoughts soon enough. And then, on the keeper, he didn't specify, but he also say Verbruggen was one of the best keepers in the world or something like that? I think I saw.
He did. Yeah, he's got potential to be the best in the world. He did say Steele's done brilliantly, in pre-season and then in game week 1 and 2. From what I've heard from Brighton fans, I think Verbruggen is the number one. It's just whether he drops Steele off the back of some decent-ish performances so far.
Yeah, cool. So one game down. If you watching the video, please do give us a like. Make sure you're subscribed as well, and we'll get on to Brentford against Southampton. So you're starting with the hosts. We know that Ivan Toney won't be playing again.
Yeah, this press conference was yesterday, but obviously we know now that he's off, probably to Saudi Arabia. He wasn't going to feature anyway, regardless. Another injury blow at fullback, so they were on the cusp of getting Aaron Hickey and Rico Henry back. Henry's the closest, and he's still not quite ready. He's going to get some game time next week in the international break behind closed doors. But Hickey was the other one. He was maybe a couple of weeks behind Henry, but he was back on the grass. But he's had a recurrence of a hamstring injury, and he's going to be out for much of the rest of the season. So he's undergone surgery. So he'll be up without one of their senior fullbacks for much of this campaign. Thiago's still out, of course. De Silva's still out as well. And I think that is it.
Yeah, so Brian Mbeumo there, as someone who's on wildcard, he's locked in on penalties as well. And then Visser, I assume, will continue up front for Brentford. So yeah, moving on to Southampton, they've got some people back and maybe a new goalkeeper.
Yeah, Aaron Ramsdale, who has signed in between Russell Martin doing his press conference and this video. And Martin said this morning that they were hoping to get him registered in time to play this weekend. And from what he was saying, I mean, he was basically apologising to Alex McCarthy, very much signposting the fact that Ramsdale's going to go straight in. So, yeah, we should see him on this team sheet. If not this weekend, then definitely game week 4. There wasn't much on the injury front. Bazunu was the only one who was definitely out. He's a long-term Achilles problem. Suleiman and Ross Stewart, they're both back in training and have been for a little while. It's only match fitness with those two. Suleiman has only been out for a month with an ankle injury. Stewart's been basically out for about 2 years, almost. He's been sort of coming back here and there, but he's barely featured since he joined from Sunderland. Now, he's a 4.5 million forward, and Martin has said in recent weeks that they have got him coming back to bolster the front line. So he's obviously not going to start anytime soon. I mean, this could be months down the line, but he's a slim hope for game time of some variety, I think, the longer the season goes on, because they haven't really got much up front. Archer they've got now, and then Armstrong and Brereton. I think the jury's still very much out on Armstrong in terms of his top flight credentials. But yeah, so Stewart slowly working his way back. Lallana and Larios, who were also previously flagged, they were back in the Carabao Cup squad in midweek.
Cool, yeah, thank you. Moving on to Everton and Bournemouth. Some boosts for Everton, but a couple still out.
Yeah, 2 back again in that EFL Cup round. I think it was on Tuesday. They got Coleman and Garner back. They both started that game. Ashley Young's back from a ban as well. I'm not sure whether that's a good or a bad thing for Everton. Tarkowski's fine. He wasn't risked in the cup. He was a doubt last weekend, but did play against Spurs, and they've just been careful with him this week. But he's fine. He's trained as of yesterday. So they've still got 3 out: Branthwaite, Patterson, and Chimiti.
Cool. And then yeah, the visitors Bournemouth. More players back in training this week.
Who, sorry?
Bournemouth, sorry. More players back in training this week.
Oh, more players. I thought you said Morpay. I thought he's gone.
No, not yet.
I don't know. You're not that desperate for recruitment up front. Yes, they have got players back in training. Yeah, David Brooks, who's been out since back end of last season when he was at Southampton, was it? He's returned to training. And Enes Ünal, who's going to obviously compete with Evan Nielsen, he's going to be back after the international break from that toe injury. I think that only leaves Tyler Adams on the long-term list. I didn't see any word of Billen, who missed out in the last 2 with a back issue, but Max Aarons is fine after illness.
Perfect. And then Ipswich against Fulham. Starting with Ipswich, they've got Calvin Phillips back available.
Yeah, he started in midweek. He was, as you said, he was ineligible to feature against Man City last weekend, so he's now eligible for his league bow for Ipswich. They've got 2 players nearing a return. I don't think this is going to be quick enough, though. Broadhead and Clark, Harry Clark, I should say, because they've got another Clark now. They are back doing some variety of training. Nathan Broadhead's close to a return to team training, and Harry Clark, who's one of the right-back options, he's doing individual work outside. So obviously still looking at after the international break. Wes Burns still injured and George Hurst still injured as well.
Yeah, so just asking a personal question for Greaves on wildcard. Is he still nailed?
I mean, I wouldn't. I would stop short of saying Neale because I probably don't know Ipswich as well enough. But from what I've seen so far, from what I've read of Ipswich fans, they think he's got potential to go on to be a very, very, very good Premier League defender. I think that sort of 50 million is a snip from him from Hull, and definitely a step up from Burgess.
Yeah,
He was that left-sided option. So I do think he's the securest of the back four at present. I'm still sussing McKenna out to see if he's trustworthy or not, but I think he's, given the outlay, what they paid for him, I think he's probably secure.
safer than Ben Johnson anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. And then Fulham, pretty easy. Everyone's fit, and Smith Rowe, hopefully will last more than 70 minutes this week.
Yeah, Silva did mention about his sort of his fitness yesterday. It was more about his off the ball work. Yeah, as you say, no injuries, and he was just talking about whether he can play in the same midfield as Pereira, as he has been doing. Pereira slightly deeper in some games, but he did mention the other players available. One of which is a new signing, Sander Berger. They also got Lukic, Kearney, King, and Harrison Reed as well. So, and he did say that Smith Rowe has to adapt and do the off the ball work that Pereira was doing last season. So I'm not sure if that was a thinly veiled bit of criticism, but he's not going to drop him after scoring last week. Yeah, no real injuries, but he did sort of suggest that Berger isn't ready to start the new midfielder, and the same with Sessegnon and Cuenca as well. I think Anderson's the only one who's of the new signings who's like ready pretty much to go straight in. But whether he drops Diop straight away, I'm not sure.
Cool. Moving on to Leicester against Aston Villa. I haven't got any Aston Villa on the screen because it was too late, but I know Neale has news. But yeah, we'll start with Leicester.
Yeah, this was last night. Again, as we mention every week, just take everything that Cooper says with a pinch of salt. He said there's no changes to the squad from midweek, which means there's only Daka and Stolicic. Is that how you pronounce his name? The backup goalkeeper. It's Cody, who was out for a month. He just proved my point. He came back on Tuesday. I think he was on the bench and came on. So he was well ahead of schedule there. So this is what I mean about Cooper and his timelines. But as far as we're aware, only 2 flag players.
Cool. And then Aston Villa, there's nothing on the screen, but some encouraging news for those who want to punt Nedeljkovic from Emery's press conference.
Yeah, thank you for saying that as well, because that's another name I would butcher if I given a chance. So not just Matty Cash who's out, as we heard during the week, he's out for about a month, 3 to 4 weeks. But Diego Carlos as well is out of this one. I don't know how long he'll be out. It said a minor issue, a very small issue, so he might not be out as long as Cash. And of course, the international break's out next. So I don't know how long the 4 million defender is going to get in the team, because there is the option of moving Concert to right back and putting Carlos in at centre half when he's fit. But he didn't do that last weekend, and he didn't do that in game week 1. He brought the young lad, 4 million defender, on both times. And he has said recently that he sees Concert as more of a centre half as well. So it looks good in the short term for starts for him. I just wouldn't be able to commit to anything beyond probably game week 5.
Yeah.
In terms of starts.
And yeah, obviously the transfer window closes tonight, so we will know if they do make a late move for a right back or not. So moving on to Forest against Wolves. Nottingham Forest, serious injury in game week 1, but it's not quite as serious as we perhaps thought for Danilo.
Yeah, he's had his surgery, and Nuno didn't want to put down an exact time frame, but it doesn't sound like it's anywhere near season ending in any way. Apart from that, I think it's just Ryan Yates. He was ill, and maybe he was going to start against Newcastle, but he pulled out the lineup, and I'm going to assess him to see if he can come back. But I think that's the only concerns that we know about.
Yep. Chris Wood looks good. They haven't signed a striker yet, I don't think. But yeah.
Yeah, I think Nketiah's Palace bound, isn't he? So I think they're not going to add to the ranks by the looks of it. And Owen, he played the entire 90 minutes in midweek, so Wood's going to start this weekend, yeah.
But for those owning Matt Turner, which is far too many, he is off to Palace as well. So.
Oh, is he? I missed that.
He's off to sit on the bench at Palace, so you can get the Henderson Turner for backups now, so that's quite
I
helpful.
missed that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Wolves, Semedo's back from a ban and then a big injury blow. Neil, I think we've just lost your audio.
Sorry, I have myself muted there, Tom. Yeah, it's
that's the best.
Boubacar.
That's ideal. You haven't left this stream.
Yeah, I was so upset about Boubacar Traore being out for an extended period. He wouldn't have troubled the starting 11 anyway. He's out for an indeterminate time yet, but it's going to be lengthy. Lateral meniscus damage. Yeah, as you say, Semedo's back, so he'll come in at right back, you think, and especially after last weekend. And they've still got 3 sort of B teamers out long term: Chiwomi, Kalajic, and Gonzalez as well.
Thank you. And then finally for the Saturday games, we've got West Ham against Man City. We'll start with West Ham first.
Yeah, and not much to report. It's looked pretty quiet in this early stage of the season. Cresswell, who again was back up, he is going to be out with a hamstring injury. Still assessing the damage of that. And I think that's it. Edson Alvarez is back. He came on last weekend and he started in midweek, so almost a fully fit squad for Lopetegui.
Cool. Just quickly on Wolves, because there's a question in the chat. They signed Sam Johnston. What do you think about that goalkeeping situation?
Yeah, I must admit, I would have to look into like Wolves forums and the athletic correspondence for where they see the pecking order. I think Sarr, they think might leave next summer, so it's a sort of long-term planning. But I don't know about the interim. Black Wolf's always good. He's really reliable on Twitter. I think he's one of our scout network. Does he predict the lineups, and I always look at what he's saying. And the Molyneux mix form as well. I tend to go on there, so I will have a look after this because that's just been confirmed today, and see what they think going forward. Sarr maybe keeping his, just off the top of my head, Sarr maybe keeping his pace this weekend, and then Johnston the longer term replacement. But who knows?
Yeah, nervous times if you went Sarr. And then moving on to Man City, Foden's still ill, but he is in the England squad, so maybe that's a play to get him out of that. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, he's the only one who's I think a significant doubt for this. Of course, Bob as well, who was out medium term, 3 or 4 months. But yeah, Pep said he's still unwell, still not feeling well. Was his line today? So. And he hadn't been seen in training. I was following Blue Tone's updates on Twitter this week, and he hadn't seen him in training all week. So, assuming he's out of this one. Rodri has been seen, as has Kovacic. So, Kovacic picked up a knock last weekend, straight back into training. He's all right. And Rodri, who we haven't seen since the Euros, because he, I think, initially had a hamstring injury and then a late return. So, he didn't play any part in pre-season for City. So, even if he's fit for the squad this weekend, I'd be surprised if they threw him straight back in, like, given how well Kovacic has done that 6 role. But you never know. Anyway, he's nearing a return. And that's it on the team news front in terms of injuries. But there was a couple of nice lines about Lewis and Walker. Lewis in the England squad, Walker not. Pep said Walker had arrived after the Euros with some little niggles and problems. And then Lewis had the pre-season rhythm because he'd been involved in all the friendlies. And that's why he's in the position. He did say it in the present tense, that's why he's in the position. So hopefully that means a start in game week 3 if you've got him. But he also said that Walker will be back to his best soon, that they both bring different types of attributes. Rico can't do what Walker does and vice versa. And he wants them to push each other in the squad. So, again, as everyone knew, I don't think anyone was kidding themselves, there will be medium-term threat from Walker, if not this weekend.
Yeah, don't think I'll be going for Lewis on wildcard, but 1 week punt doesn't look too bad. So that's the Saturday games done. Please like the video, drop us a subscribe as well because it really helps. And we'll get on to the Sunday games starting at Stamford Bridge with Chelsea against Palace. And it's pretty standard for Chelsea. A couple of familiar names on the injury list, unfortunately.
Yeah, still Lavia and James. James is suspended anyway. This is the last game of his 4-match ban. Maresca said earlier in the week that he hopes to have them both available after the international break. Not sure if it's immediately after, but he said after these internationals. This press conference was clearly filmed not today.
Yeah.
I watched it. I wasn't sure if it was even filmed before the game last night because it sounded like he's talking about there still being 3 or 4 days left of the transfer window. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure.
I've heard these quotes. Yeah, these quotes are quite old, I think. But
Yeah, it was released as a video this afternoon on Chelsea's website. So yeah, I'm not sure how fresh these are, but we weren't aware of anything from last night. And anyway, it was mostly the second string playing with the likes of Gusto and Neto not risked and just held back at home,
yeah,
suggesting perhaps you can maybe ratify this that Neto's got a very good chance of starting this weekend.
yeah. I think so. I think so. I've got it probably 70-30 Neto v and Nkunku on that left wing. Jackson will come back. Palmer will come back. Enzo was subbed off early, so that he'll be starting with Caicedo, who was also rested last night as well. Yeah, pretty standard, I think. First choice back four. Yeah. So yeah, all good. And Nkunku, I think it's probably time to go, I would say, from an FPL standpoint, unfortunately. But
yeah, he's gone. I very very rarely do early transfers, but I did one on Sunday, and it was him.
It's a shame because if he starts central, he's going to be so good. It's just that Madueke is not going to be dropped, so Palmer's going to be central for the moment at least.
Yeah.
And yeah, moving on to Crystal Palace. Good news and bad news there.
Yeah, they've kept hold of Mark Gahey, which I'm sort of pleased about because I wasn't sure, but he's worth 70 million, as much as we need the reinforcements. So he's going to be a Palace player and captain the team this weekend. They'll be without Riyad, who was the summer recruit. He injured his knee. I mean, he had a bit of a ropey game last weekend, so I'm not sure that's as big a blow as what it seems because it'll be Klein and Richards, I assume, as centre halves, and that was the case at the end of last season. So during Glasnow's purple patch, it was Klein and Richards flanking Anderson as was because Gahey was injured. So they're not like as depleted as what people think, I don't think. But anyway, he's out. Avoided serious injury. It's not yet clear how long it'll be, but several weeks. Frank is still out as well with a rib injury, but Will Hughes is back from illness.
Yeah, so yeah, Mateta, all good. Eze, all good. Despite dropping in price.
He stuck out a strong team in midweek against Norwich and they won 4-0. So hopefully that gives them a bit of a boost heading into this weekend because I've kept hold of Eze.
Yeah, and I don't think Nketiah is official yet. So
no, and Glasner said that. Yeah, Glasner said this afternoon that anybody signed now won't be in the squad for tomorrow. So
cool.
But then we'll assess it after that.
Yeah. Moving on to St James's Park. It's Newcastle first. Sandro Tonali is finally back.
He is. He looked very good as well against Forest. I was watching this on Wednesday, and I don't think he'll start this weekend, man, because he's his first start in 10 months, and I think he was clearly blown by the hour mark. But he looked very good, and I think longer term he takes his Longstaff's place. So he's back from the suspension list, but still on it is Fabian Schär. This is his third game of his 3-match ban, so he'll be back after the international break. Still injured, Lascelles, Botman, Miley and Wilson. And joining that injury list is Joe Willock, although it looks slightly better than what we thought because he came off with a thigh injury. Howe was pretty downbeat on Wednesday night, but this morning he said the scans returned relatively good news. It's still an early scan, and they're going to have to do that again in a few days, but he'll miss this one, and then hopefully he'll not be out for too much longer.
Yeah. There was a few things going around about Isak during the game, but that was just he went down and nothing else, right?
Yeah, it was heart and mouth one. He felt the deck. I must have been about half a dozen times. Some of it was rough treatment. Some of it was just him, gamesmanship. But as far as I'm aware, I think he's all right. Mind you, there wasn't much in the way of team news asked. It was 95% questions about why we haven't signed anybody.
Yeah, well, he played the whole game, scored his penalty, so
he did.
I'm sure he's good. And no right winger either, so Murphy maybe decent long term or Barnes potentially coming in.
Well, yeah, I think there's Murphy and Almiron, providing Almiron doesn't leave for the Middle East, which I doubt now. And then, as we saw last weekend, Barnes can come in and either him or Gordon can operate on the flank that they're not really used to performing on. Gordon's done that before, and Barnes has occasionally played there. And so, it's a bit too volatile at the moment to say. I think Murphy getting hooked early last weekend, Barnes having such a good impact. I'd stop short of making any sort of medium-term predictions about who's going to be the reliable starter. If you want someone, it's Gordon and Isak.
Yeah, definitely. And then the final game of the weekend, Man United against Liverpool, the big one, starting with Man United. Another injury blow for Mason Mount.
Yeah, relatively minor, but enough to keep him out for a few weeks. So a muscle injury, and he joins the injury list, which is already five strong. Lindelof, Shaw, Euro, Hoyland, and Malacia. Hoyland's back doing some, rehab, individual training stuff, but not in time for this, and maybe not even in time for game week 4, because Ten Hag said this afternoon that he's been out since the first game of that American tour in pre-season, and he needs time to build fitness. So, and he's seen how carefully he's been with Xerxes and Garnacho and De Ligt as well. So he might not be trouble in the starting 11 for a good month yet.
Yeah. You mentioned him there, Garnacho potentially coming in.
Yeah, I've thought that for a few weeks, and I've been proven wrong. It must be fitness with him, because he came back relatively late. It didn't feature in any friendlies. He got half an hour, I think, in the Community Shield, and then half an hour in game week 1, and then again last week he got a bit more time. So he's getting closer, and he's had an impact every time he's come on. And obviously Ahmad is the man who's going to make way. You would think Rashford's not been great, but Ahmad seems to be the sacrificial lamb every time Garnacho comes on.
Yeah, and then Xerxes, do you think he deserves a start, or do you think they'll stick with Bruno?
Well, similar boat, and Mount being out is gives him a pathway, because it was, Fernandes and Mount as the sort of, the dual pronged attack in the first 2 game weeks. So there's definitely, a route into the first team now. Again, I'll check the usual sources like Red Cafe and various other sites to see what the consensus is. But he's again closer by the week, and Mount being out really limits the options of who they can play there.
Yeah, and then finally for the week, Liverpool new signing Chiesa. Is he going to feature on Sunday?
Doesn't sound like it from what Slot was saying this morning. He is going to train today, but he said that it's a bigger chance that he's not in the squad, and he'll only really be in if there's injuries unforeseen happening in the next 2 days. So he has come with a bit of a patchy injury record, and that was acknowledged by Slot. They said they've done their due diligence on terms of medical background checks and all that kind of thing. So they're just going to build him up, I think, gradually. So I don't think he's any imminent threat. He did talk about his positions. He can play, as we know, there's no real sort of insight here, but he can play on the right, on the left, and a Slot said maybe even in the middle. So
that's helpful then.
Yeah, an option across the front line really, but he's not going to be in the starting lineup anytime soon.
Yeah, I have just been reminded in the chat I forgot Spurs, so we'll go back there. But just quickly,
yes,
yeah, just quickly, there was nothing about Trent sulking, was there? No issues there.
Not that I've seen, Tom. No, I think I've seen all the way through, and there was obviously coached last weekend about it just after it happened, but there was no thoughts that there'd be any repercussions.
Yeah.
Spurs. Solanke's very, very likely out. So Postecoglou said in one interview that he's not going to feature, and then I think in 2 other comments he said we probably won't risk him. So I think that's why he's 25%. There's just a tiny sort of sliver of doubt, but doesn't sound like he's going to feature. He wasn't seen in any training images this week. Neither was Richarlison, and he has picked up an injury, and he's going to be out for a few weeks, said Postecoglou. Bentancur is back. I didn't see, and mind you, I haven't seen the press conference in full, but there was no sign of Van in the week, but he wasn't mentioned, so I assume he's fine, because he finished the match last weekend. He sort of jarred his knee, I think, early on, and then a doggy came off as well. But I don't think, I'm just going to very quickly check every word of the press conference on the Football London site. Well, there's no mention there. I don't think there's any problem.
I saw Paul O'Keefe say he's fine. So that.
Yeah, there's no. I don't think there's any mention of him in the press conference, and he's twice been asked about injury. Once in the press conference and one in the in-house club media interview, and didn't mention on either occasion. So we assume he's fine.
Yeah, perfect. So that will be Son up front again.
Possibly. I mean, Johnson's been stinking the place out a bit, so they could put Kulusevski on the right, and then Kulusevski up top because he played a lot there in pre-season, and have Son and maybe Odegaard flanking him. But because I don't know if he'll go with Kulusevski and Madison in midfield again.
Yeah,
which is what he did last weekend. That seemed quite attacking.
Bentancur.
So I wonder if he'll bring back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very much. Or even Sarr coming back in midfield. So I do wonder what he'll do. Johnson's been the sort of the weak point in the last few weeks, but it'll be Son or Kulusevski up top. Yeah, one of the two, and Son will definitely start either way.
Perfect. Yeah, so that concludes all 20 teams. Not the most interesting, to be fair. It seems like there's a lot less injuries than last year so far, which is obviously good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, Solanke in all likelihood out, Foden out. Anyone else? Nadalkovic looks good with cash out for a month.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's about it really. I think for FPL interest, I'd sell in Nkunku if you have
him.
So. Doesn't look great.
Yeah.
And yeah,
we've got the national break coming up, so there'll be a lot more to talk about. I think come game week 4, because there'll be a lot of players flagged then.
Yeah, for sure. So do check out the predicted lineups on the site, which will be getting updated as and when this afternoon and this evening, and obviously any embargoed news we'll put out on the socials tomorrow morning. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you're subscribed, and if you're listening on the podcast, please turn on your automatic downloads to never miss an episode. So thank you very much, Neale, for giving us your time.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, thank you for filling in, and see you next time.
Yeah, good luck in Game Week 3, everyone.